To no one's surprise, we're talking about cervical mucus today and timing of sex, which I mean, we could literally talk about this all day. There are always questions around this because it is something that really takes time to get used to doing, having someone there walking you through the process, like all the things, and just so many misconceptions about it. So, specifically, I'm taking these two questions from questions that people commented on one of my TikTok videos about. And this is just so important to talk about. So often, by the way, welcome to the Mind Your Hormones podcast. We're just like diving right in around here. Oh, wait, actually, before we do dive in, because I keep forgetting to talk about this, I'm going to put a link in the show notes of a type form that you could fill out if you want a specific question answered on the show. I could create an episode about it, do a Q&A episode. I was doing so much better with like reminding you about it, talking about it, putting it in the show notes, which is just like the information below the episode. And I've not been good about that lately. I totally forgot. So we're remembering today. And I want to make sure that you know it's there. So in the show notes, there'll be a link. You could just put in a question, give as much information as possible so I could have context and like really get into the question. And then I could, potentially put your question on an episode or have a full episode on it, depending on how in depth it is. So if you want something answered on the show, make sure you fill that out. We'll put that in the show notes for you. Okay. All right. So anyway, so often women will, they're going to their doctors. Hey, I'm trying to conceive, whatever. They get a whole bunch of bullshit advice from many doctors, like, oh, just come back after a year, or like everything's normal, like whatever. They can go down the rabbit hole of that. That's not what this episode is about. Kind of, but not really. So a lot of times I will hear from my clients, even from friends and family, their doctors are like, okay, just have sex every single day after you get your period. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, if you're trying to conceive and you're having sex right after your period, you're doing it at the wrong time, and you're not gonna be able to get pregnant like that. And that's such shitty advice from a medical professional who you're supposed to trust. Number one, most of the time, right after you have your period, you're not fertile. So you can have sex then, obviously you can have, but like PS, you can have sex whenever you want, right? It's not just like, oh, you can only have sex when you're fertile. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But for the majority of people listening to this who have been trying to conceive for a really long time, one of the biggest stressors is having sex at the right time and having to have sex so often. Like, if you've been trying for years, it's almost becomes a chore sometimes, and it lost the like excitement out of it when you're feeling like, okay, we have to do it every single day for like 2 weeks out of the month. And it's like, well, that's really not feasible for most people who have jobs. Maybe they have conflicting schedules. Maybe one has to travel for work. Maybe you already have a child and you're trying for your second or third or whatever. It's like, I don't think sex every day for 2 weeks is number one going to be enjoyable if you're forcing yourself to do it, especially if you have your child. Like that, it's just ridiculous. So you do not need to do that. You are only fertile 5 to 6 days out of every single month. And you need to have cervical mucus present in order to get pregnant. Now, if you're someone who has a short cycle, like 21 days or less, which number one, that's a big red flag. You do not want to have like a 21 day or less cycle. It should be around, some people say 21 to 35 days is normal, but I really prefer my clients to be in the 25 to 35 day range. So if you do have a shorter cycle though, you might be fertile a couple days after your period. But if your cycle is more in that 25 to 35 day range, it's going to be a few days after your period. And you're going to know when you are fertile and when you're approaching ovulation when you start seeing cervical mucus. You likely are not seeing cervical mucus the day after your period. There's usually at least a few days. Again, if you have like a longer cycle, like I'm more on the 34, 35 day range. So if you're around that time, it's going to be a good, like, I don't know, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days after your period till you start seeing that cervical mucus. And so if you feel like you need to have sex every single day and you're burning yourself out, like you could be having sex for 5 days in a row. And it's like, again, I don't want to say pointless, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's not when you're fertile. Okay. So if you're like putting so much pressure on yourself, it's not necessary. You need to have sex when you see cervical mucus. So again, if you're having sex those few days after your period and there's no cervical mucus pregnant, you cannot get pregnant. You literally can't get pregnant without cervical mucus, period. Okay. So what I always recommend for my clients is have sex. Again, have sex whenever you want, blah, blah, blah. We already did that disclaimer. But in order to get pregnant, have sex once you start seeing that raw egg white consistency cervical mucus. Now, If you are someone, you're like, Corinne, I don't see the raw egg white consistency of cervical mucus. I only see lotiony, or it's like wet or whatever. Whenever you see any type of cervical mucus, that's when I want you to start having sex every other day. You don't need to do it every day when you see that cervical mucus. I do advise doing it about every other day in your fertile window, because sperm can stay alive in that cervical mucus for up to 5 days. So if you're doing it every other day, you're giving yourself that leeway where you don't have to feel like, oh my God, we have to do it every day, but he has work and whatever, I'm exhausted, like you have that leeway, but you're also still making sure that you're going to fall in that window. Because say you start seeing cervical mucus on like Monday, right? And then you don't ovulate till Saturday. If you have sex Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, anywhere from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can get pregnant. Right? So that's why it's like, okay, I start seeing the cervical mucus Monday. I'm going to have sex every other day to make sure that I'm in that window. Okay. Or even if, say, you start seeing cervical mucus on Monday, but you don't ovulate till Sunday, and you just have sex on like Monday or something, you're out of that window. So you want to do every other day once you start seeing cervical mucus. Ideally, you're going to see that raw egg white consistency, slippery, stretchy, clear cervical mucus. That is what's letting you know that you are getting closer to ovulation, because your estrogen increases when you get closer to ovulation. Your testosterone also increases to put you in a mood because it knows you're about to be able to get pregnant. And that's what your body is just naturally doing. But estrogen also is what produces cervical mucus, and your body knows you need cervical mucus in order to get pregnant. So that is what is your marker for knowing that your fertile window is coming. Now, having that cervical mucus does not confirm ovulation, right? But it is letting us know that you are likely approaching ovulation. Some people have cervical mucus for 2 days. Some people have cervical mucus for 10 days. It completely depends, but that is the marker you need to be looking for, okay? You do not have to have sex every single day as soon as your period ends. That is 100% not required. And if you're like not seeing any cervical mucus, like Corinne, I don't see any, then there's obviously other hormonal issues going on, likely some low estrogen, possibly from not ovulating. There's many different things that can go into it. Obviously, always going down to the systems in your body that actually impact all of your hormones. I've had so many clients, especially a lot of clients who were on birth control and now they're not, have a lot of issues with cervical mucus, because one of the things that birth control does is it dries up your cervical mucus, so you can't get pregnant, because you can't get pregnant unless you have cervical mucus present. So a lot of times people will come off birth control and they'll be like dry as a bone, like yo, we got nothing going on here. But I don't want that to freak you out. If that's you, I've helped so many clients get that back, like slip it and slide it now. If you know, you know. So obviously check out the Mind Your Hormones method if that's you. Obviously, you probably have some other stuff going on too if you're not seeing cervical mucus, because you're not going to be able to get pregnant without cervical mucus, period. Like that is the only reason, that's the only way sperm could actually stay alive. If the sperm's going inside of you without cervical mucus, it dies. It doesn't have the pH environment that cervical mucus provides for it. So it literally needs to have that cervical mucus to stay alive, okay? You don't need to have mounds of it, have it like dripping out of your vagina, right? Like it doesn't have to be so much, but you do have to have something. And likely, again, I mean, not likely, ideally, that stretchy, slippery kind. The lotiony kind is usually you'll see lotiony and then it should turn over to the raw egg white. A lot of times people will have an issue where it's just lotiony and not the raw egg white. Again, we work on all of that. All of that gets taken care of when you're optimizing the systems in your body that impact all of your hormones. Okay. So I'll put the link for the Mind Your Hormones method in the show notes. And you can use code podcast for 10% off. I also feel like I have to sneeze and now it's going to go away, which is the most annoying. What is that thing? I feel like I remember in high school, like looking at the light and being like grapefruit or like elephant or like something fucking weird like that, where it's like if a sneeze went away, but you want to sneeze, it's like look at the light, it's like grapefruit, it comes back. I think my friend Lauren made that up now I'm thinking about it. Anyway, didn't work, so I just tried it. So, okay, we're moving on. So that's that. Now, with that cervical mucus conversation, another question that came up around it was, what if I get cervical mucus a few days before my LH peak and it stops before the peak? Okay. This is a perfect example of why I don't fucking like LH strips, okay? They are a waste of your time and energy. They are causing the shitstorm in your brain of like, okay, wait, I know I'm supposed to be tracking my cervical mucus and I got cervical mucus, but then my peak came a few days after and now the peak, the CM is gone and now I'm getting a peak and all this fucking shit about the peaks and LH, and it's like, throw this fucking shit out, okay? LH strips are so inaccurate. This is not a effective way for you to track when your fertile window is, because Some people, you'll get a positive LH strip in the morning, you won't get it at night, you won't get it the next day, but again, your cervical mucus isn't matching up to it and it's freaking you all out. You need to prioritize the cervical mucus over anything else. Neither cervical mucus nor LH strips are confirming ovulation. This is why you have to also be tracking your basal body temperature. But at least with your cervical mucus, it's a biomarker. It's your actual body producing cervical mucus because it knows you're likely about to ovulate. It's not an LH strip. Yes, obviously these LH strips are supposed to be measuring your luteinizing hormone, your LH, which is the hormone that actually like bursts the egg and then the egg comes out so you can ovulate. Bursts the follicle, I should say. But it's not always accurate, especially if you have PCOS. Sometimes your LH will go up and then it'll go back down. And it really causes so much more stress than it actually does good for when you're trying to conceive. So put the LH strips to the side and instead start wiping before you pee and start really tracking that cervical mucus. If you are seeing the cervical mucus a few days before your LH peak, have sex when you see the cervical mucus. This is also why so many people miss out on quality fertile days because you're waiting for an LH peak. It's like you could have been missing out on 2, 3, 4 days of really high quality fertile days where you're like, I could get pregnant, get that sperm up in there, my cervical mucus is on and popping, but you're waiting for an LH peak. And you wait too long because then you see your LH peak, but your cervical mucus is now gone and you can't get pregnant without cervical mucus. Because some people will have cervical mucus and then they won't have it for like the day before they actually ovulate. I've seen this a lot on my clients' charts where they'll have cervical mucus like 4, 5, 3, whatever, 3, 4, 5 days leading up to ovulation. But that day before and the day they ovulate, they don't have the cervical mucus. But that's okay because sperm stays alive in cervical mucus for up to 5 days. So if you ovulate, say you had sex on, again, a Monday and you ovulate that Thursday, you're still good. You're still in the window. So don't wait for an LH peak. Follow your cervical mucus. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Literally, I want that to be. Next time you pee and you see cervical mucus, I want follow the yellow brick road, me singing that beautiful song to you. I want it to go off in your head and follow the yellow brick road to having sex when that cervical mucus is there. That is what I want you to follow, not the fucking LH strips, okay? Don't worry about the peak of that. It does not fucking matter because it's so inaccurate. And on top of following the yellow brick road of your cervical mucus, I want you to make sure that you are also tracking your basal body temperature. How many times do you think I could say this? How many times have you heard me say this? And if you have heard me say this a million times and you're still not tracking it, what are you doing? What are you doing? I need you to get on it, okay? Temp Drop is obviously my favorite. I use it every single night. I've used it for pretty much the whole time in postpartum. If you have irregular sleep patterns where you're waking up at different times, you are not getting the same amount of sleep every single night, you're having interrupted sleep, aka you're a mom or you're a shift worker or whatever, Temp Drop is the way to go. An Aura Ring, no. Okay. So many people ask me about this. An Aura Ring, when my clients say that they've been tracking with an Aura Ring, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll look at it, but like it means fucking nothing to me. It's so inaccurate. It is such a horrible way to track. I'm like, you just got to get a different one and then we can start looking at your numbers because the Aura Ring is just a complete waste of time to track it. It's very inaccurate. So the armband is the way to go. With just the Temp Drop, I'll put the link in the show notes. My code gives you 15% off and they always also have sales and my code stacks on top of the sale, which is amazing. If you like the under the tongue thermometer, and you are someone who like gets sound sleep every single night, you don't have interrupted sleep, you wake up at the same time every morning, like my old life before I had children, before I had Madison, I only had one child. I said that in a way that made it sound like I wanted to go back. I don't. I fucking love being a mom. It's the best thing in the world. But anyway, you could try Natural Cycles. That's a really good under the tongue thermometer. There are just still a little bit of nuances when you do it underneath the tongue that could cause some inaccuracy in your numbers. But if you are going to do under the tongue, I highly recommend Natural Cycles. I have a code for them too. I don't know what the code is or how much off. It's probably like 15 or 20% off, something like that. I'll put both those in the show notes. My number one, again, is Temp Drop though. But if you really do want under the tongue thermometer, then I would recommend the Natural Cycles. We'll put those in the show notes for you. Moral of the story is, have sex every other day when you see your cervical mucus. I literally could have just come on the podcast and said that. I've talked for 14 minutes about this, but I could have just come on and been like, hey, throw your LH strips out. Stop listening to your doctor when they're telling you to have sex every single day. There were some people in my comments on TikTok. First of all, I rarely read them because there's fucking people are wild over there. but I read them sometimes to get like, see where everyone's at, what they're wanting to hear about, whatever. Literally, there's someone that was saying that she has sex, just has sex every day, like every day for however long she's been trying to conceive. And I'm like, wow, that's a rough one. Like, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot every day for like months, years. I'm like, wow. I mean, like, good for you guys. Like, good for you. But you don't need to be doing that, okay? Every other day, once you start seeing that cervical mucus, okay? Then you are in your fertile window. Track it. Also, like, obviously in Temp Drop, you could put all this in when your cervical mucus is there, when you're having sex, all things, so you could like match it all up. But that's what we got for you today. Check the show notes for the links to the Temp Drop and Natural Cycles, but also to the type form you could fill out if you want me to answer a specific question for you on the show. I'm all about it. I want to hear what's going on with you. I want to answer some of your questions. And also stay tuned. I've been saying this too, but probably I'll announce this on the next episode. We're going to be doing this soon. The podcast is now over this because it was like back in August and we hit it over 1 million downloads on the show, which means this podcast has been listened to over 1 million times, which I actually can't conceptualize that number. Like, I'm not a math person. I just can't even wrap my head around it. It's absolutely wild. Yeah, I'm fucking singing the Yellow Brick Road. And I'm like, a million times people listening to this shit. But it's so needed. It just goes to show how needed this information is because we learned about fucking rocks in school instead of learning about this. So anyway, as a thank you, because you're the reason why the show grows, for you listening to it, sharing it with friends, like all of the things, writing reviews, that's a major way to spread the show. But anyway, we're going to do a giveaway. It's going to be massive. Like, oh, you're going to want to know about this. I'm giving away a lot of shit. Okay. It's going to be so good. So stay tuned. I'll probably announce that on the next episode-ish. Just stay tuned. Also, I'll definitely be sharing it on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, it's at Corinne Angelica. I mean, when I tell you you're going to want to know about this giveaway, you're going to want to know about this giveaway. And then I also going to be sharing it to my email. So if you get my emails, you'll get information about that. You'll probably know about it first. So I'll put the link in the show notes if you're not on my email list too, to make sure that you get all that. Okay, I love you. I will talk to you soon. I hope you have the best day. Thank you so much for being here. If you loved this episode and learned something valuable, please share it with a friend who you think would also love it, or post it on social media and tag me so I could personally say thank you for helping me spread this important message. I am beyond grateful to be here with you. So until next time, stay intentional, stay consistent, and always mind your hormones.